Hello there, I am the real-life fake wizard. Over a decade ago, gamers were sold a lie that by publishing games on digital storefronts, it would mean publishers could sell games cheaper to customers. Yes, we were told it created a cost-effective method to deliver games. It would be cheaper for companies to ship games because there wouldn't be any cost of goods or manufacturing or shipping, and therefore, the games delivered would be charged at a cheaper price. In that age, it would have been something like $60 for the physical edition and $50 for a digital edition, so a $10 savings for the digital edition. Well, digital games did hit the market, but the promise of savings for customers was a blatant and ridiculous lie. Games were sold in stores for $60 and online for $60. So yeah, digital games launched at the same price as disc copies, but do you know the excuse the publishers put out to justify their initial lie to gamers? Well, you see here, if we undercut retail stores with our game prices being cheaper, the retailers will take our hardware off the shelves, and we can't have that. We don't want to upset the retailers. Well, on March 25th, 2026, Nintendo of America announced that starting in May, first-party Switch 2 digital games will carry an MSRP below their physical counterparts. The first example from Nintendo is Yoshi and the Mysterious Book at $60 digital and $70 physical, a clean $10 split. On the surface, this is the pricing strategy that was promised back in the era of the Xbox 360 would be. So why does it feel so wrong? Well, because the price was that digital would come down. What has actually happened across every decision Nintendo has made over the past year is that physical pricing will be pushed up, and the infrastructure surrounding this announcement makes that direction almost entirely certain. Join us this summer for the Indie Game Circuit, a 3-day indie game showcase as part of the Southeast Game Exchange in South Carolina. You are cordially invited. Developers, we want to show off you and your games, give you the opportunity to meet gamers, get real feedback, and compete in a friendly competition for Indie Game Awards. Gamers, there will be on-site events and competitions daily where you can win exciting prizes and meet some of your favorite creators and voice actors. Join us this summer at the Southeast Game Exchange in Greenville, South Carolina, July 17th through the 19th. And developers, slots are limited, so apply now. The link is in the description of this video. We will see you there. Okay, so Nintendo announces that physical editions are going to be basically more expensive than digital editions, but the language matters a lot here, and the statement that Nintendo released was so confusing that IGN needed to put out an article attempting to clear things up, and even that was confusing. Because no one wants to be crystal clear here. No one wants to fess up to the fact physical editions will be $10 more. The baseline price of Nintendo games with the launch of the Switch 2 is $70. That's our starting point. We also know that Nintendo is keen to get their game prices closer to $80. That's where they would prefer to be for all of their games. They attempted to push games to $80 with Mario Kart World, but seem to have been forced to roll that back on future titles after widespread outrage from the gaming internet. We also know that the upcoming Yoshi game is an outlier. It was priced at $60 online before this major announcement. Like, this was already public information and ties into Doug Bowser's variable pricing promise when the Switch 2 was announced. This Yoshi game is not exactly made for sweaty die-hard Nintendo fans, okay? This game is specifically an on-ramp for children to enter into the Nintendo fandom, especially after the Super Mario Galaxy movie, where kids around the world will meet Yoshi for the first time. We also know that Nintendo wants to move away from physical releases. The chips inside Switch 2 games are expensive. This is why there is such a push for game keycard games, because they're cheaper to make, despite the fact that gamers vehemently don't want game keycard versions of their games. We want the full game on the cartridge. So that brings us back to the pricing point with all that information in mind. If the average price of a video game for Nintendo is $70, which it is, does that mean digital prices go down to $60? Or does it mean physical prices go up to $80 so that Nintendo can continue clearing $70 digitally? Nintendo might claim that the price isn't going up, but that is entirely disingenuous. We need to define what it can go up or down from. This is marketing jargon from them meant to confuse you. This means we're not going up to $90 or $100 yet, but $80 is still very much on the table. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, we kind of have our smoking gun here. Yoshi was priced at $60 before the Nintendo announcement. The announcement moved Yoshi's physical edition up to $70, meaning games are going up $10 for physical editions. This puts all major releases like the next Zelda, Mario Odyssey 2, Fire Emblem Switch 2, Pokemon Winds and Waves, all at a price point where the digital could be $70 and the physical editions could be $80, which will effectively cripple physical game sales. Because $10 is $10. Now, if that Yoshi point wasn't enough proof for you, take a look at this. Mouse P.I., the upcoming first-person shooter that is inspired by classic cartoons of the 1930s, is priced at $30 for all standard editions, including Steam, PlayStation 5, Xbox physically and digitally. But with the Switch too, the game is $30 digitally and $40 physically. Game prices are going up. They're not going down. And if you think this is just a new policy rolling out for the first time, it's not. This pricing split has been active in Europe, the UK, and Japan since the Switch 2 launched in June 2025. In the UK right now, Mario Kart World is £67 digitally and £75 physically. Donkey Kong Bonanza, Kirby Air Riders, Mario Tennis Fever, and Pokemon Pokopia are all $59 digitally and £67 physically. Yoshi is $50 digitally and $59 physically. Every single first-party Switch 2 game in Europe already has this split. The US announcement is just the final rollout. And that brings us to the case to be made from the title of this video. Video game prices are never coming down. Will they go on sale now and again? Sure, but a discount sale is very different from actually reduced pricing. There was a time when video game prices had a life cycle. A game launched at full price, and then over weeks and months, the market did what markets do. Retailers competed, Walmart undercut Best Buy undercut GameStop, GameStop ran used copy sales, and prices fell. Many would claim that Nintendo never lowered prices, but that's actually not true. That is something that happened more so during the Switch era. Nintendo, in the past, participated in that price lifecycle culture. They ran the Player's Choice line on GameCube and the Nintendo Selects line on Wii and 3DS. First-party titles officially repriced to $20 and $30 after they'd had their run at full MSRP. Sony did the same with Greatest Hits. Microsoft had Platinum Hits. It was kind of an industry standard. A game launched at $50 or $60, sold its initial wave, and then, if it sold well, entered a second life at a lower price where it found a much broader audience. Three things made this life cycle work: retailer competition, repricing programs, and the used game market. All three applied pressure on pricing from the top down. If the publisher wouldn't drop the price of a first-party game, a retailer might. If the retailer wouldn't, the used market might. This created pathways to get cheaper copies. Obviously, this wouldn't be the case for every single game. I could hear you in the comments, but for plenty of games, this worked because it did. During the Nintendo Switch era, Nintendo abandoned this model. Breath of the Wild is still $60 9 years after launch. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe never really got a meaningful price cut. The Nintendo Selects program is gone, same with PlayStation and Xbox. Their pricing models have changed as well. Funny enough, there seems to be a correlation between the rise of digital game sales and the diminishing game affordability. Regardless, this was all deliberate choice and it worked. Nintendo's attachment rate and revenue per title soared precisely because the price floor never dropped. Nintendo's 2026 pricing announcement did not arrive in some vacuum here. Over the past year, Nintendo made a series of infrastructure decisions that, when we look at them together, it gives us a little more insight into their strategy. The original Nintendo Switch offered game cartridges in sizes from 1 gigabyte all the way to 32 gigs. Developers can choose the capacity that fit their game and their budget. A small indie title could ship on a cheap 4 gigabyte cartridge, whereas a large RPG could use a 16 gigabyte cartridge. There were options during the Switch 1 era. The Switch 2, however, launched with one cartridge option, 64 gigabytes, costing publishers a reported $16 per unit. For context, a 100 gigabyte Blu-ray disc on PlayStation 5 or Xbox costs $1 to $2. Nintendo's sole physical media option costs roughly 8 to 16 times more than its competition's. For a mid-tier release shipping 300,000 physical copies, the cartridge alone could run close to $5 million before packaging, shipping, and Nintendo's royalty cut. Publisher INN Games publicly stated that putting their game R-Type Dimensions 3 on a standard cartridge instead of a game keycard would have increased manufacturing costs by at least 15 euros per copy. This is the explanation as to why the vast majority of third-party physical releases at the Switch 2's launch were all game key cards. Since then, Nintendo has said that smaller cartridges, reportedly 16 gig and 32 gigs, are in production, but we have no update or timeline on when that could happen because chip shortages have delayed them, rising material costs will keep them expensive, and insiders have confirmed that game keycards are not going anywhere regardless of what else happens. Nintendo did not launch the Switch 2 with affordability in mind for developers or gamers. Whether that was logistical or strategic, the outcome here is the same. Third parties were directed or gently pushed toward a format that undermines the entire concept of physical ownership. A game keycard looks like a cartridge. It sits in a box on a GameStop shelf, but it contains zero game data. When you insert it into your Switch 2, the console connects to Nintendo's servers, downloads the full game, and installs it to the internal storage of the console. The cartridge must stay in the system to play it, but the data lives on the console, not the card. Nintendo promised that their first-party developed titles would not use game keycards. The exact wording here was, quote, "We currently have no plans to use game keycards for Nintendo-developed titles." Two qualifiers in one sentence here. Currently and developed. The distinction between developed and published is extremely weighted in this regard. Pokemon Pokopia, published by Nintendo, shipped as a game keycard because it was developed externally by Koei Tecmo. Their promise held on a technicality. There is also another detail here that most of the coverage around this misses, and this one's pretty wild. In June 2025, Capcom confirmed in its financial results that game keycard sales of Street Fighter VI are recorded as digital sales. The publisher gets retail shelf accessibility while booking the revenue on the higher margin digital column of their quarterly report. This is like the best of both worlds for these publishers. For the gamer, it's the opposite. You walked into a store, you picked up a box, you paid physical pricing, and received a product that functions like a digital download code. If the servers go offline, that card is worthless. If we consider all the factors we've discussed so far, it points in a direction that Nintendo has been trying to go, but the backlash after $80 Mario Kart slowed them down considerably. Yes, cartridges are expensive. The $16 per unit cost is real. The $10 difference between physical and digital is not invented from nothing, but that cost exists because Nintendo chose to launch the Switch 2 with the most expensive cartridge option available, creating an intentional problem. Now they're using that problem to justify the solution they have made clear they always wanted. And the solution is digital, baby, because digital is where Nintendo makes the most money, and digital is where they also have the most control. Look at every statement Nintendo has made over the past year and ask yourself, were we told the truth? Nintendo said game keycards would not be used for Nintendo-developed titles. Then, a Nintendo-published Pokemon game shipped as a game keycard, and the promise held on the difference between developed and published. Nintendo says variable pricing would give them flexibility. Every example of that flexibility has gone in one direction: upward. Nintendo said the cost of physical games is not going up, but Yoshi's physical edition is launching at $10 more than its digital counterpart. Going up or going down means nothing when you've said you consider variable pricing to be your main strategy. Every single statement that they make remains true on technicality, and every statement moved the needle in the same direction, towards digital, towards higher prices, and away from the one format where consumers have any leverage at all. So when someone asks, will game prices ever come back down? We don't need to speculate, my friends. The answer is overwhelmingly no. We are on the trajectory of $80 games becoming a norm unless gamers reject Nintendo's and the likes advances to keep asking more of you, but delivering less or the same. Until next time, create, innovate, inspire, and for the love of God, cancel your Disney Plus subscription. And if you never had one, that's fine too. Tell Grandma to cancel Disney Plus. And Grandma's boyfriend. We all know Grandma's got a boyfriend. Shout out to Grandma. All right, bye-bye.